And then you just look up. And then you turn your head to the side. And then you do the same thing. You can almost see like the cellophane wrapper of my neck, that striated appearance. And if you don't stretch out that fascia, your neck is always going to be forward and rounded. And next thing you know, you get headaches and further neck pain. Then you want to stretch out something that elevates your shoulders. So if anybody's doing this right now, it's a good stretch for you. It's called the levator scapula. You take your arm, you put it behind you, you turn your head, and then you just pull it back. And you hold all these stretches for like 3 to 5 seconds. It's not an exercise class. It's a tension release class. You take your hand, put it behind, turn your head, and just kind of pull your head down just like this. And it gets a really great stretch to the muscle that shrugs your shoulders up all day. Then there's a 3-way stretch, which I really like. You take your hand, put it behind your back. Then you turn your head to the same side, grab literally over your ear and just pull. That will stretch the traps. Then look straight. This will stretch the scalenes. Then turn towards your armpit, and this will stretch out the back part of the trapezius and the suboccipital ridge, which are the muscles that cause headaches. So again, you take your hand, you put it back, you turn to the same side, you grab your ear, you pull it over, and that's the trap. Then you look straight. Hi. That's the scalenes, and the scalenes run to your ribs. So if you're shallow breathing or short of breath and you're just tense, this is a great stretch for you. And then you turn to the armpit, and that gets the other part of the trapezius. Then you want to stretch out the shoulders because we're all kind of getting rounded, sitting. And the best way to stretch out the shoulder is to take your arm, put it behind you like we did before. But now take your hand and just reach all the way down to your elbow. Can you guys see me? Getting all the way down? Good. And then you pull forward. And this is going to stretch the entire rotator cuff around the shoulder. And when you do this, it allows your shoulder to then easily kind of pull back. So again, you take your hand, put it behind, take your other hand and try to creep it. I'm tight like there's no tomorrow. And then you just pull, and that stretches the entire rotator cuff. And then that will allow the shoulder to kind of roll back much more easily. Now I'm in my own confined space, but the next stretch I would like to show you would be a pec stretch for the chest. So you would grab onto generally a doorway, a jamb, or a piece of equipment, anything. You'll hold your arm up on this really high angle, and then you take your other hand and you pull your pec as you turn your head. And what this does is that if you're contracted in the front, then there's no way you're going to be able to level out those shoulders and square them back. So in order to prevent that forward head carried, rounded upper shoulders, you must stretch out the pecs. So again, you grab onto a doorway, something high, a corner, grab your pec on the inside, pull, and just turn your head. And that will release a tremendous amount of tension. And again, 2 sets, 3 sets, 5 seconds, that's all you need. Then I would take and do the same angle, but this time, turn your thumb down. And this is going to stretch out something called a corticopectoral tunnel. It's basically a very long muscle that runs from your arm into your axilla or your armpit, and again, rounds the shoulder forward. So if you turn your hand down, grab onto that corner, pull, and then turn, straighten that elbow, you'll feel a really great stretch in a different area. So again, thumb is up, thumb is down, in the corner, grab your pec, turn your head, and that'll be a great stretch for the upper back and upper body. So if you're sitting, which we do a lot, I think, you want to do some mobility. Mobility is to lubricate the spinal joints. So I'm sitting right now. What I'd like to do is just show you what I'm talking about. You take your hands, I'll move back. Take your hand, grab it, and as you tilt to the side, lift it up. So you're like lifting your torso up in the air. And when you do that, take a deep breath and then let it out. Then go to the other side. These are not stretches, these are motion. If you pull your rib cage up, you're lifting it off your mid and low back area. And just breathe in, and that moves the diaphragm down, and then relax, and then do it the other way. And you do these like 3 or 4 times on each side, just to kind of loosen up as you're sitting. Then you want to do something called angels, where you take your hands like this, and then you square the mid-back muscles, like squeeze your shoulder blades in, or like a chicken posture, scarecrow posture, if you heard those terms, and just do it again. Round and then squeeze, round and squeeze. So I kind of, when I'm just getting tight, I'll sit there and I'll just kind of round and squeeze. I'll kind of pull my arms up, back and forth to loosen up a little bit. And then you want to arch backwards because we're always rounding. Now you want to reach your hands up, put it back like this, and just arch backwards while you're still in that seated posture. You could also put your hands behind your head and just try to arch back, or that scarecrow posture, just arch back. Anything to reverse this. Then you want to do what Kyle, if he joins us later, would like this. It's called the golf twist. But you keep your head straight, like if you're keeping your eye on the ball, and you twist. And you twist. Because what this does, it moves the mid-back off the lower back, and your neck stays steady. You're not doing this. And you're not doing this. Your arms are down, your head is steady, and you just turn your torso. And you may even get like a pop or a click in a good way, because it's going to break up what's called interarticular adhesions to the mid-back area. So you're loosening up your neck, you're loosening up your back, and then you want to square up your posture. So what I generally recommend is you take your arms like this, you pull them in, you push it out, and that squares up your shoulders. Then you put your arms out, and then you push your head forward like a Pez dispenser, and then you pull it all the way back in like a triple chin, and then you rotate your head to the side. You see what I'm doing? So you push forward, you pull in, and you rotate to the side. So if I showed you from the side, if you square up, pull in, come out, if you push your head forward, even though that's a bad posture, you're loosening the joints and then you're pulling it back in. You're getting your head back on top of the spine. And then you turn your head. Then you come back, push it forward, pull back in, and then turn your head the opposite direction. And this is like an easy way to kind of move the head forward, back, rotate, and you're lubricating the discs and the joints of the spine, preventing arthritic change. Once you go through these routines, it gets easier, but then you have to do some strength. And we're not talking about using equipment. We're talking about isometrics. And isometric means that you're pushing against a resistance and the resistance doesn't move. So if I took my head and I kept it neutral, straight the whole time, I would try to push my head this way, but I'm not going to let it move. So I push and I hold it for like 3 seconds. Then I release, and then I push, and it starts to strengthen the muscles. They're called deep neck flexors that holds the spine upright so it doesn't jut forward and get that ugly posture. And you hold this for 3 seconds. Then you go to the back of your head, and you're trying to push back, but you don't let it move. So you hold it, and you push. 3 seconds. Then you go to the front, You try to push down, but you're not going to let it move. So you push and you hold against your own resistance. Then you want to do it out of neutral. So you look down, you put your hands back here, and you try to push backwards, but you don't let it move. Then you look up. You take your hands behind you, and you push, but don't let it move. Then you turn your head to the side, and you try to push, but don't let it move. And then switch. You try to push, but don't let it move. And then you turn the other way. It's like the same thing. You push, don't let it move, and push, and don't let it move. And what that does, it starts to strengthen the muscles. It won't make your neck big. It'll just make your neck nice and tall. And it'll prevent the forward head carriage that we're trying to prevent in the first place. So if I went through this routine super quick, I would go like this. I would take my platysma, look down, and just stretch. Look down, and stretch. Look down, and then stretch. Take my hand, put it back here, turn to the side, pull, pull, and pull, and then switch to the other side. Turn your head and just try to pull, pull, and then pull. And then the levator scap, remember the shrug muscles? Put it behind, turn your head, grab your behind your ear almost, and just pull. To exaggerate this, you push your elbow back a little bit. Same thing, behind, turn, grab, pull, and then push your elbow back just a little bit. Then go to a doorway, grab, pull on the muscular part of the pec, and then turn away. And then do the same thing on the other side, grab, pull, and twist. And you know what? This feels good even without a doorway, just doing it like this. And then you turn your hand upside down, remember the thumb down, and it's the same movement, just a different muscle group that will help the neck and the shoulder. And then down, and then pull. And then the rotator cuff, hand behind you, grab your shoulder, and try to slowly walk it down to your elbow. Turn, and then pull your arm forward so you can see how I'm really exaggerating that stretch. And then slowly unravel it. Take the other one, put it behind you. Walk your fingers all the way down to your elbow. And then just pull. And then mobility. You just kind of reach when you're getting stiff after sitting. Back and forth. Do like 2 or 3 times per side. Then try to go ahead and do some squares with the angels. Squeeze your blade, round your blade. Squeeze your blade, round them. Just kind of work it out. Then arch backwards. You can either arch with your hands up, put it behind your head, or just simply just try to reverse the curve. You're trying to prevent the roundedness. And then the golf twist, where you twist your torso, twist your torso. This is just, you'll feel like, wow, I'm just a lot looser by the time you're done doing these few movements for just a couple of minutes. And then you want to square up your posture, shoulders up, pull it in, back, push your head forward, pull it in to reverse it. And then rotate your head to the side. Push it forward, pull back, and then pull it to the side. That's a routine that I do when I'm doing paperwork for an entire day. And then later I would do those isometric exercises. So I'd say let's keep going and let's move on to the lower back. Is that cool? All right, first, just so you have a frame of reference, with the lower back, it's all about the hips. And you have to stretch out the front of the hips, the back of the hips, and then muscles within the glutes. So I'll show you on the floor. And my kneecap hurts, so I use this cushion. Can you guys see me when I'm on the floor? Because all your photos are in the way.
Yeah.
All right, good. So first things first, you want to have a lunge posture, but you want your legs straight, and you don't want to round forward. You want to just stretch out the calf and the hamstring at the same time. So you simply hinge forward. And I recommend holding stretches for 10 seconds at a time and try to repeat them 3 times. But we're just going to show you one on this side. Then you come back. Then you lunge. And you want to feel that stretch in the front of the quad. Then if you lift your arm up, it starts going into the abdominal fascia. And then if you twist to the side, it gets into the psoas. And then you try to breathe to move the diaphragm. And then you come back. And then you gracefully try to grab your foot, because the quad is a 2-joint muscle. It crosses your hip and your knee. So now you flex forward again, and you squeeze the glute, and you'll feel like a really nice stretch to the front of your quad. And then you just repeat it. I'll show you again. Legs straight, hinge forward, no rounding. Just like a nice hinge. And as soon as you hinge, you should feel it pretty quickly. Then get into a lunge. Then get into the abdominal fascia, twist to the side, get the psoas. And the psoas attaches your spine to the front of the quad, underneath the quad to the front of the thigh. Then grab your leg, try to lunge forward, and then I forgot to show you this, but then you gracefully transition, so that way you're getting a 2-joint muscle of the quad, arm up, and then just twist. And then that will get the psoas. From this position, I want you to modify a pigeon pose like you would do in yoga, meaning that I want you, if you start off in a plank and you take your leg, your knee, and you touch your elbow, then you try to take your ankle, I want it like a 90-degree angle. Like, I think that when people pull their legs in like this, they're almost missing the piriformis. You're better off trying to keep it at 90 and then try to get into that position.
We can't see your legs, Dr. Duke, just so you know.
Say that again.
Oh, you can't see your legs, just so you know. I can't see your legs.
All right. If I do it this angle, can you see?
Maybe just because the camera was...
Tilt the camera down a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Please hold.
Yeah. Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Thank you.
My bad. All right, here we go. So if you take your leg and you pull it towards your knee, take your ankle, try to get it towards, you want a 90-degree angle. A lot of people cheat, and the leg is like this, where if you can try to get it to be more parallel, that'll hit the hip and the piriformis much better. For instance, if you're in a plank, and you pull it up to the knee, and you put your ankle like this, it's almost like you're cheating and you're missing out on the benefit of the piriformis stretch. So what I would recommend is try to get that knee at a 90-degree angle. And then, even though you may not be as successful, try to get down and you will feel that stretch in the glute. Another way to target the piriformis, if that's too challenging, lie on your back, figure 4, up like this through your thighs and just pull it in. That's another way to target the piriformis. Or one of my favorites is to take your legs, knee over the knee, grab your ankle, grab your other ankle, and then pull it in. And that's another way to kind of benefit of stretching out the piriformis. And then you have to stretch out the lower back. And I'm not a real big fan of holding too much of a forward child's pose flexion of the back. I am, however, a fan of lying on your side, taking your top leg, bringing it back, bending your bottom leg up, pushing up, then trying to stretch. This will stretch out the lats, and it'll stretch out the fascia of the lower back without causing any kind of tension or strain. And if you have a scoliosis, you want to make sure that the top part is a part that's curved in. You never want to do it the other way, because then you'll jam up the joints. So if I have a curve of my back and it's on this side and I'm bent like this, that's the side that you want to stretch. You don't want to stretch this side. So again, you lie on your side, top leg goes all the way behind you, bottom leg comes up, and just hold the stretch. Very safe stretch. And then, one of my favorites, but a little more complicated, is you get into a lunge, like a straight on lunge, and not a yoga pose, but you get your hands as close down to the floor as possible. You turn on your back leg, so you're really flat on the floor on like the pinky side of your foot, and then turn your other foot forward, and that's going to hit the piriformis and the IT band on the other side. So if I showed you from the other angle, it would be a lunge, and then you take your back foot, and then your front foot goes forward. And again, piriformis, quadratus lumborum, and IT band. Complicated, however, very worth it. And then, and again, it's not a fitness class. So I just want you to practice some of these movements, because if you don't stretch those muscles, the lower back will strain and pull and shear, and then you would be a patient in my office if it's not for maintenance care. So I have a nice little mobility routine that I recommend to lubricate the joints before you exercise. You simply put your legs up like this and just twist them side to side. And again, this is not a stretch. This is just to lubricate the facet capsules of the lower back. Then put your legs down, put one ankle on the other, and just push your hip out. This will create like a synovial flush of liquid inside the hip joint, so you don't get a hip impingement syndrome. Then take your ankle, put it on your knee, and just pull it to the side. And like every once in a while, you may even get like a pop or a click into your SI joint. That's your sacroiliac joint. And again, I just recommend like 2 or 3 per side. This one feels pretty good, so I'm just going to do it to the other side too. And then I recommend like a tabletop posture. Cross your knees over your knees, and then, and there my back just released. It just changes the angle of movement. It's like a self-manipulation to kind of lubricate again and keep the spinal joints healthy in your lower back. And then you switch, because it does change the angle. You put your knee on your knee, and you do the same thing again to the other side. After you do a few of these, this is all I recommend before you take Holly's classes. Go ahead and just wake up your glutes a little bit. Again, this is not for fitness. Just get your fingers to almost touch your heels. Then you get up into like a glute posture, just like a bridge. But from here, if you rock your pelvis up and down, this will move the sacroiliac joint, almost like preparing it for motion in your class, so you don't sprain your back. Then lie on your side and just open up like a book. And this will move the thoraco lumbar spine. That's a transition zone that a lot of people have heard. It's like below the brow line to like the belt line. And then grab your knee, pull it all the way to your chest, and just pull it all the way back. But the key is to like hug it in where it almost pinches. Then pull it all the way back. And again, you're just doing these like 2 or 3 movements each. Lie on your side and just kind of open up like a book. And then come back. And then open up like a book again. And after you do 2 or 3 of these, go ahead, pinch your knee towards your chest, and then pull it all the way back. Again, you're prepping your body, getting it ready to exercise versus just jumping into it. Then get into your quadruped posture. Loosen up a little bit with some cat camels or cat cows just to kind of relax. And then go ahead and touch your elbow to the other elbow and then reach back towards the sky. And again, this is another fantastic movement to prepare your mid and lower back for action. And then just switch. You touch your elbow to your elbow, and then look up at the sky. And don't be surprised if you find one side moves well and the other side doesn't. This is like a wake-up call for things that need help in your body. And then I like ending with this movement. It's a common posture that people use, and you don't have to be so athletic to kind of do it. I just like holding it for like 3 seconds, then putting it back. Again, you don't have to touch. That's more of an athletic movement. Just hold it like you're shaking someone's hand, and it kind of locks up the paraspinal muscles to kind of prepare you to stand up. And then reach to the sky and suck your belly button in, squeeze your glutes so it's almost like you're tucking under. Take one leg, push it forward, tuck your toes under, and then push backwards like you're going to lunge backwards. And that's how you stand up. And that's the routine. Please hold. All right, so I covered a ton, yet there's so much more. But I wanted to give you the guts of how to keep healthy and perfect posture and try to maintain an injury-free environment. So I could take questions if you have any.
Well, first of all, Dr. Duke, that was amazing. And I know you weren't probably able to see all the comments coming through, but they were full of, oh, that's amazing. Oh my God, hey, that's great. He's amazing. So I think everybody has gotten so much out of this. And I think Jenny's going to help with fielding some questions. I know there's some questions that were in the chat thread. So I'm going to hand that over to you, Jenny. And of course, be mindful of time as well today. So go ahead, Jenny.
So let's go ahead and start. Dr. Duke, I sent you a question yesterday from Julie about her knees. I can read that, and then you can give your prepared answer or your answer you've been noodling on, and then we'll move forward from that. But Julie emailed yesterday and said, I'm 50, and while I don't think of myself as older, I do notice sometimes my knees hurt when working out at home. Jumping specifically sets off knee soreness, jump hinges, jumping jacks, split jump squats, etc. I've experienced my knees kind of blowing up above the knee and being extremely sore for days after jumping. Now I'm scared to jump, so I usually march. Instead of being scared of jumping and knee injury, are there exercises to strengthen the knees?
Of course there are. There's a lot. So I'll tell you what, let me show you something. I'm going to move the camera down again so everyone can see. All right, Julie and everybody else who has any kind of kneecap issue, it's quite simple to kind of help them. What's going on is that when you're jumping and whatever kind of jumping it is, whether it's plyometric or jumping jacks or just squats or deep squats, you're putting a tremendous amount of strain on usually the patella tendon. And when your legs are bent, there's one particular muscle that very rarely works, and it's called the vastus medialis. The vastus medialis muscle is a teardrop muscle on the inner part of your knee, and it only works in the last degrees of knee extension. So if you grab an ankle weight or buy an ankle weight, I would keep it at like 5 or 10 pounds. You get into like a little hurdler stance, and then you try to straighten the leg. Because when you're jumping, the leg is never really getting straight except maybe when you're in the air. And then if you strengthen the vastus medialis, that teardrop muscle on the inside, it'll pull your kneecap up and in versus up and out. And up and out is what's irritating probably the patella bursa and irritating the meniscus. The other thing that people, and when you do this type of movement, I recommend movements that are at least 40 or 50 repetitions at a time. And I would do this before you work out. So it almost gets that muscle active and ready to handle the load that you're going to place on it. The other thing that I would recommend to do would be to do some kind of I don't like sidestepping exercises, but I like a side lying single leg lift. It's an open chain exercise, so you can do it at home. The problem is that people generally have their leg too far forward, and when you do it like this, you're irritating the IT band, which runs down to the knee. Where if you move it all the way behind you, almost like into spinal extension, then you lift it, that targets the glute medius. And then that's the muscle that you want to strengthen to help prevent the IT band from overworking. And then lastly, Julie, you should probably buy what's called an infrapatellar band, where it's a band that goes underneath your kneecap and it wraps around and it anchors the kneecap in place, and it prevents the kneecap from moving too much while you're exercising. And then lastly, ice after activity for about 20 minutes. And if it doesn't get better, then go ahead and let's do a telehealth visit, and I'll take a look at it and we'll do some orthopedic tests. But I think those would be my top 3. Do the leg extensions before you work out. Wake up the glutes with like some single leg glute lifts. Make sure you get a patella band, and then ice it after activity and see how it goes. That's what I would recommend for right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. As a follow-up to that question, when Bonnie asked, is that exercise section good for sciatica as well?
No.
Or is that a different, no. Okay.
Wait, which exercises are we talking about?
Vonnie was asking if the exercises that you just did would also be good for sciatica.
The exercises I did for
The
our
one with the knee
For
up
the
and
knee.
down.
The knee up
The
and
one
down
for the knee?
specifically.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bonnie, I can't see who you are because I'm trying to see if I'm in camera to show this properly, but if you have sciatica, I have a solution. It's called nerve glides. So First of all, let me just say that if you have sciatica, it's, make sure you figure out what it's from, because it's either a muscle or it's a disc hitting on the nerve or a bone spur hitting on the nerve. And if it's a true sciatic condition, this will help you. You sit in a chair. Let's pretend this is the sciatic leg. Let's see, I'm gonna. So this is the sciatic leg. You straighten the leg and you bend forward and you flex that foot, and that will really light up the sciatica. And then you pull it back, you arch your back, and you look up at the ceiling. And then you straighten the leg again, and it starts to pull the sciatic nerve down the leg. You flex the foot up so it's really tugging on it, and then you play tug of war and you pull this direction. And then again, you pull it back, you arch, you straighten, and you flex. And you keep on going back and forth for like 2 or 3 minutes. And I would do this several times a day to kind of release the sciatic nerve if it stems from the back or through the glute and down the leg. Now, you could also get one of these guys.
Okay, Spawn. You go.
Am I far enough back that you can see?
Yes.
All right, so you take the ball, you take the leg that has sciatica, you cross it over the other leg, you lean to the side, and you put the ball right in the middle of that glute. Because if it's a trigger point and you roll it around, you'll find a hot spot. It'll be exquisitely